Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I titled this presentation, Align Therapy to the Curriculum to Reduce Planning Time and Increase Outcomes. I think these are two really big, lofty goals, right? When I present on this topic, I often feel like I should be giving an infomercial that for 2 installments at $9.95, like you can get everything. But I'm really excited to be here today and share this information with you. I've been doing work in Central Texas in some districts and have really made this possible. And it's not an altruistic endeavor in the beginning. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my caseload, and as we talk to people, the same theme is coming up that led to this, that people are seeing incredibly big caseloads, big drive times, more schools, and that's kind of the situation I was put in when I came up with this material. So basically, to say to a professional, I think that we should be using curriculum within our therapy. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, and I think nearly everyone would agree with this, right? But the question is how, and how we go about doing this. And I think that 3 key components are kind of missing. So the first one is buy-in, in that the majority of the people within this room are doing a job and doing it extremely well or extremely effectively. So what is it out there within the research or within the activities that some people are doing that are allowing them to get by with more therapy with less planning time? And then secondarily, what are these people doing that is allowing them to have incredible relationships with their teachers and have the teachers feel supported and them feel supported within their campuses? Even for those of you that serve diverse populations and might be multiple places, like me, I know it's very difficult to gain a sense of work that you're doing with your teachers if you're not in the same campus every single day. So I love this quote, and what we're going to be doing today is, one, starting with some research to give ourselves some buy-in, and then secondarily, I think that we need just straight out hands-on visuals and a really solid idea of what this will look like. So I'm going to show you some therapy materials, and you guys are also going to get to meet some of the guys that I'm working with in the classroom. I've got videos. I don't like to always present just the pristine videos, so I've got some examples of our standard groups, but then I've tried to include some more difficult populations, some fluency and some autism and some really low intelligible students, so we can see how we apply their curriculum to them. And then the third part, which came way late in the game but is equally important, is how do we get the information from the teachers? Because it's them, right? They're the ones who have to tell us what it is they're working on without, quote unquote, adding something to their schedule. So what's a real successful way that we can interact with the teachers that doesn't cost us a lot of time and we can know what their themes are each week or what it is that they're focusing on? So that's kind of the trip that we're going to take today. So this information led me to publish 2 books with a colleague, Katherine Johnson, so I need to disclose that, and we're going to see some of the images from the books during the therapy part. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a link at the end of this presentation where you guys can go and download the animals chapter that I'm going to show you for free on our website. So I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about me. I came back to school one school year after a summer, and these are the campuses that I was assigned to. So between these 2 campuses, I had roughly about 30 children. I work with the bilingual population, so about 30 kids from general education, more of which were in the younger grades than were at the higher grades. In an effort to consolidate expertise, and probably in an effort to save some money, the district started creating units. So one of my campus got all of the bilingual PPCD kids. So I basically got 2 classrooms, each of which had morning and afternoon classes. So I additionally got about 24 bilingual 3 to 4-year-olds on my caseload. I am bilingual, so these are also the schools that I was expected to cover for evaluations. Many of the schools that have English SLPs that we were traveling around on. And then in February, this is the campus that I got to help cover a maternity leave. So I would like to say that this is an anomaly, but for those of you that have been doing this job for a while, this is probably your school year. This is pretty average. So needless to say, I wasn't too enthusiastic about what was going on. And I felt like I was caught in 2 really horrible positions. One, if I couldn't do the work, my colleagues, my department had to do it. And on the other hand, if I did do it and I didn't do it well, I was providing bad therapy, maybe my outcomes weren't coming along, and it was kind of an icky situation. But it was this situation without many choices that kind of led to this perfect laboratory where I didn't have many choices and had to think in a different way to try to get my therapy together. This is a quote by Rumi, and I think it's absolutely, I think it's our mate every single year, where we get to the point where things are at such a fever pitch that anything that's not absolutely necessary just has to go out the window, right? And we're just doing the therapy, we're just doing the meetings, and trying to sail through. So today we'll start with the research, and then we'll go into the therapy, and then we'll talk about how to interact with the teachers. Okay. So has anyone seen this data before? This is a pretty famous study. It's from the Boston area. And basically, it was a study on children to figure out what causes children to remember, right? So I'd like to start with a little bit of research today to try to give us some buy-in as to why, if we alter our therapy, why it's a good thing and why it works. So the top of this basically says that children learn the best and remember the best when they have the opportunity to use something immediately, right? And the opportunity to teach someone else. I think that's true of us too. And also, if they have an immediate opportunity to practice what they learn. So given the opportunity, we won't want to be up at this end of the spectrum. I would say, at least for me, prior to doing more curriculum-based stuff, is that I was more down here. I was doing group therapy, possibly choosing topics that maybe applied to the grade level, but maybe not within that week or within that time period. Or we were doing stuff from books or stuff that used audio and visual. So good, solid therapy. But when I saw this research, I had to admit to myself that if I wasn't including stuff that matched their day, that there was a more effective way to go about doing things. And then you see this data, and it's even more ever present, that the children that we're working with, they spend more time in specials than they do with us, and more time eating. We have an intense therapy, right? And it works. We do make gains. But the fact is, where are these guys? They're with the teachers. And they're not on this graph. Who are they with? They're with their parents. So aside from, this is 3% of their academic day for 36 weeks. So you add in the parent time, and we're at 1%, 2% of their time. So if you put this against the prior graph, in order for us to make gains with out expending a ton of energy, their other language environments need to be involved. So this presentation, obviously curriculum-based, it applies directly for the schools, but I also work in the clinics, and I can tell you that after I started thinking along this way and adopting this model, when I bring kids' homework into the therapy session for the after-school ones, and if you dig into the ECI stuff and I figure out concretely what's important to the family as far as the words they're using, and I'm taking into consideration the home, it's the exact same thing. So for those of you that are across multiple settings or different settings, throughout these research slides, think about the overlap of the different communication environments that are the important things. Okay, so more information. Why is teacher involvement critical? So this first bullet, as we know, kids learn a ton from their peers. Yes, they learn from adults, but they learn equally as much and possibly even more from their peers. How many of you in your elementary school career were sitting in desks where everyone was facing forward? Am I dating? We just all dated ourselves, huh? Yeah, lines, and you could see the back of someone's head and the teacher. That was it. When's the last time you've been in a classroom like that? Everyone's in their groups and their pods with all the desks facing each other. The general education people are all over this, and a lot of the research, the Montessori research is drenched in this, the co-teaching model, right? If these guys can learn from each other, it sticks. And it makes sense too. They're motivated. They want to look like their friends well into middle school, and when they're dressing like their friends and they're doing their hair like their friends. To assimilate with the group is powerful motivation, right? So if we could, in this magical world, choose vocabulary, choose things that they need to show their friends that they're as smart and answer the same questions and use the words they're using, it's a huge driver for these kids. And then frequency and consistency, back to this 3% of their academic week. If we are to include curriculum topics or the stuff they're talking about, the 72% of their days, we increase the frequency and we increase the consistency because we're using the words that the teacher uses and that the child uses. So therefore, it's more bang for your buck, again, that we can use what they're dealing with each day. Here's some pretty cool studies. This stuff is largely out of the ECI, the 3 to 4-year-old information. Basically, parents are the most consistent language models, right? And kids are going to talk like their parents. Have any of you ever given an ARD or IEP meeting and worked on a certain process with a child, and then the parent comes in and they speak just like their parent? They're parrots of their parents. And all of the ECI data that shows that where parents have been successful, parents have been taught in very specific, easy to understand terms, and they're the most highly motivated people to help their child. So this one study, I love this middle one here, the second bullet. So what they did is they did receptive language work with kids and with parents at the 3 to 4 age level. And then they were able to follow some of these kids and track down some of the population at 6th grade in the beginning of middle school. And they had their control group and the group they worked with. And they found continued gains, having not worked with them for most of elementary school later on, that the parents kept up the same behaviors of knowing how to enrich their language, and the kids benefited from this. So this point makes me feel really good. I can count on one hand the number of years I came back to the same school, let alone the same district or different places. And I know that if I actively work with the parents, if I could figure out a magical way to involve them more, I can do stuff in 1 year, and it'll be okay that in the future this will carry on. So I love that point. And towards the end, I'm going to show you how to use the kids' homework and how we started creating our own homework that's theme-based to go home. And then mother's use of labeling. So I included this one because this is the easiest one for parents to latch onto. People who have normally developing children don't need to talk much. You don't walk around your own kitchen naming all the things that you touch, right? It seems odd, and even for parents, it's real embarrassing at the beginning. But they don't even know this as a strategy when they end up with the one kid who can't say words, who doesn't have a rich vocabulary. And teaching this labeling strategy where they walk around and as they're setting the table, they're naming the things. After they're dressing the child, they're naming the clothes, dramatically increases their vocabulary. So what we started doing is creating these basically super simple printouts that just say, hey, parents, this week we're working on animals, community workers, whatever it is. Ask your child who questions about who's in the community. Have your child name some of these animals that are in the picture. And little by little, we've been able to give the parents these abilities to enrich the language of their kids. The other point is that you've all seen these kindergarten backpacks, right? By this time of the year, you can't even see the lower 3 inches because everything's just getting smashed in there. Well, some of that actually makes it home. For those of you that have kids, it's a percentage, right? But parents are asking them about these topics and about these words. And if we're giving the child speech and language abilities to talk about the stuff that's going on in their classroom, the parents have more typical interactions with their kids because they do exactly what you do. Hey, what'd you do today? What's this? You colored this? Our kids don't get to have those conversations as much. But if we give them that vocabulary and those words, they can increase those abilities. And then this is it's as important to us, right? We have choice over what we do every half-hour therapy session, every hour group. We can pull stuff off of our shelf, or as we see today, there might be an easier way, which also in this instance, which isn't always the truth, is the better way. That instead of cramming our cars full of junk, we can go and steal the junk from the kindergarten classroom, and that they already have out on the table, or any of their papers. If you've walked by your copy machine, this is total green strategy of mine too. I go by the copy machine because you know those teachers are hitting print when they shouldn't, and they're just kicking out printouts on all the topics that they have for their grade level, and you can just use them and cut those up and send them home. And then lastly, this is something I struggled with, I think, my entire career. It's getting teachers to see the importance of what we do and get them to do something in the classroom. And it's never greater than when we work with OGCOM, and you have a child who has an iPad or a PEC schedule, and you go to the teacher and you say, hey, so this is what we're using for the communication, and you go in next week and the battery's dead, or it's in the corner, or another kid's using it to color on, right? It's very, very difficult. And I saw my own guilt within this, and turning the paradigm around where I started to invest in what they were doing. They saw me as seeing what they do as important and seeing their measures, their reading measures, and the gazillion tests they have to do. And by me saying, oh, what are you guys doing this week? You're doing this? Great. We're going to work on that too. Can you ask him when you read this book? Ask him these questions about this when you guys do floor time. We'll use the same book. They see this equal and this importance, and the number of teachers who are actually doing what I'm hoping that they'll do in the classroom is increasing. And they're basically just getting solid examples. Hey, when you read that book you're already reading, add an S to every word and ask him. And they go, oh, I can do that. And that's typically their answer, which is great. So as a quick summary of the section, what do we have? We have 3% of the week. And most of the research that has to do with learning and remembering, especially with general population, let alone impaired, says that there needs to be more. Frequency and consistency is the things that came across all the articles. Parents, those of you that are parents, you know you would do anything to help your child improve. So if we can figure out a way to involve the parents and get them to ramp up, we've got another ally. When I was in that situation in that school, I knew that I had two major problems, right? One was that I had all these young kids. And if I could figure out a way to do therapy or the planning for the young kids, that would get me back a lot of time. And the second problem was that I didn't have any help. My department, my district, yes, they said we're going to work on these caseload things, and they were genuine about that, but it wasn't guaranteed to come through. So this is when the parents and the teachers came in to provide this extra help. And then basically, by us knowing what a teacher gets measured for and contributing to that as special educators supporting general education, the buy-in is great. So I'd like to jump right to showing you some kids that I work with and give you an idea of what this looks like within the groups right away so we can wrap our mind around that. And then we'll talk about different strategies that you can use within your caseload to try to get your therapy aligned in a different way. Okay. Here we got our standard first grade group, right? Articulation, roughly the same goals. This is the one group you hear about in grad school and then you never see again, right? All the kids speak the same language, they all have the same sound, and they're in the same class. That's in your book, and then that's it for the rest of your career. So across a couple of classes, that the grade levels all have the same color shirt in the school that I'm working on. So these guys are working on weather. This is their theme for the week, kindergarten, right? I said, hey teacher, what are you guys doing? Doing weather. Can I have your book? Yes, please give it back. I'll give it back. Here's their book. So we took this. We've got S goals, we've got R goals, one R goal and an L goal. So basically, what they're doing is I cut up pieces of paper. They're identifying objects that they can see. If they're at the level of literacy, they're writing the word. Otherwise, they're drawing the tree, they're drawing the snowflake, and then we're pluralizing it. And what they're doing in each comma is they're taking my data. So I'm saying snowflake, and then they're saying snowflakes. And I say, did you say an S? I said an S. Okay, give yourself a check, right? So then they're also collecting my data, so then I can then do that, right? Spanish is a little bit more lucky because there's no Z sound, so with the S kids, we don't have to switch back and forth. But invariably, they're able to cover all their weather vocabulary. S, I'm able to pluralize what it is. And then they get to carry this back to the classroom, this little flip thing. So they flip a cover over and they see a picture of a snowflake, and then they see their check marks. So this comes into play. So that's their book, basically this weather book, different seasons. This really comes into play with the language guys. Because our kids, these aren't the kids that raise their hand every single question before the question's half over. The Horseshack, you guys remember Horseshack? Just dated myself again. The rest of you can look that up. So, new Horseshack? So, welcome back, Cotter. He was always like, ooh, 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 ooh. Those aren't our kids, right? They're in the back. They're not answering questions. And if you're focusing on the curriculum and pre-teaching what they've got to go to, our kids start raising their hands. And our kids get to share. And then they get to carry their junk that's going to end up at the back of their backpack. But for a golden 20 minutes, they might have that in their lap and are able to use it. So as an example here, what this is here's these guys. So this is a little bit more realistic. We've got a mixed group, and we've got some mixed language abilities. A little bit of artic mixed in with language, but principally doing a language activity here. So same junky piece of paper, and rather than doing the sounds, they began doing who, what, when. I'm sorry, who, what, where across the story. So they are working on using fables to create narrative structure, is what they're doing at their grade level. So we're doing who, what, where, going down and talking about those aspects of the story. Next day we're coming back and we use the same book in the same week, and they're doing first, beginning, middle, end for the components of the story. And they're making these little books, and they're really, really into it because they're able to go back to the classroom and actually share and actually contribute to their reading group. And this book, I think that's Peter and the Wolf. So grab fables from the library, and we're using that. And largely they're a very, very simple structure whereby there's only so many bad guys and so many good guys, and usually someone gets eaten and someone doesn't, and then it's back. So these guys have been working on this for a while, and it's really cool. This last week, they started making their own stories, right? Which introduces me to all the new characters that I had no idea about. So I'm learning a lot about Ninjago or something, and Legos. So here's what they made. Bottom right one, this one's mine, and this is from a younger group. So the cool thing about learning and using the curriculum is these guys have to care about writing, and they have to care about reading, and they have to care about story components. And we largely don't deal in this stuff, right? These aren't the requirements that we're held to on the special education side. We want them to use whatever they have, make no judgment of it, and use it and try to enrich it. So that's basically where this goes. If you can write, so this top one, this guy just copied me writing who, what, where, right? And he wrote single letter answers, right? Down below we got 2 pictures, half sentences, and guy in top right's got lots of penmanship goals, but he's got really rich pictures that he can refer back to. And their ability to answer questions, because they created the questions, they drew their own pictures kind of as their own hints, and they can sort of make out even their own writing, hopefully some of the time, makes it really, really rich, and they get excited about it. Okay, so those are groups, right? And I think that, again, if we're talking about curriculum, we can say, well, of course we'd want to use curriculum. But I think that if we rely on the teachers and we find out ahead of time what they're doing, and we can front load this, that is our therapy planning time. And then the only thing in your office, in your backpack, are blank templates for the most part, and ways in which that you use what they have within it. So I didn't think that this would be a fair presentation if I didn't talk about some of the more difficult cases we work with, right? So yeah, everyone, for the most part, you guys get the groups. It can be fun, and it can be super quick. And I have to say, there's a little monster in that last video. He's so much trouble in a really, really good way. He's going to be a very interesting adult someday. But he does not sit still, and he's the clown and everything. And since we started giving him stuff to do in the classroom, his behavior his poor behavior completely went down. And I think that a lot of the times, I don't have data on this, he's trying to show off to the popular kids. And now that he's got something to say and something to contribute, he's chilled out a little bit more. He's still a wisecracker, and he's a funny kid, to be honest with you. But he's working. And that's all I could hope for. Okay, so this guy's a 4th grader, and they did a field trip, science. So we get up in the upper grades, right? Science, math, heavy topics. So they're going on a field trip, and 4th graders, they're expected to research the topic. They're heavily into it. It was on caves near Austin. There's some caves north of town, which are super cool that they got to go see. And then part of this is they're expected to put something together and present. And this guy's got a fluency disorder. So he's a really, really good kid, but still, all the kids were just fluent to a degree because having to present for the first time. And he was struggling with this. So let me show you what we did.
A cave or cavern is a naturally occurring area or space under the surface of the earth. Caves are often a system of interconnected passageways created by the weathering of rock.
This topic is science, and you guys went where last week?
A inner space cavern.
Yeah, you went to Inner Space Cavern, right? And you're learning about caves. So this has a lot of proper nouns and names. So which of your strategies works best?
Either motor or stretching.
Okay, so let's read this again, and we're going to use, now that we've practiced it, let's do it with motor.
Okay. A cave or cavern is a naturally occurring area of space under the surface of the earth. Caves are often a system of interconnected passageways created by the weathering of rock.
Whoa! Heavily motivated to be fluent in front of his class on a topic he really likes. So in this grade level with the kids that I was working with Fluency, I teach the strategies and then I let them rename them so that they can own them. So what you heard him was saying motor, it was basically like a monotone speech. He's in a group on a different day, and same strategy. The other guy calls it robot. And basically he struggles with proper nouns, names, not uncommon. And he found facility in using basically a monotone start to get over the proper names. Science is replete with these big, horrible, brand new nouns, right? And he trips up on them. And by finding the strategy that matched the activity, he made progress, and he was super excited about it. So what I'm presenting on today, this is an evolution of a number of years, and I have to say that, in all honesty, not 100% of my therapy is curriculum-based. Like, I don't hit all the topics and all the groups. But little by little, every time I don't do it, and then I get a topic, to be honest, a little bit, I regret it. And when I first started, I did the easy stuff. I did the artic things, I did the groups. And I was able to do it, and I never did any of what we would consider more difficult stuff. I was like, oh, we'll just do the speech stuff with those guys, because that stuff's hard, and we don't need the curriculum in there, because we're just going to do this stuff. But as I started to spread it out, now it's flipped for me, and it's a challenge. When I get a new disorder, I'm like, what can we do with this? How can we map this onto the classroom? And I've been having really good success. Okay, so let's look at low intelligibility. So this guy is, the campus calls him the ray of sunshine. He's funny. He's got unbelievable low intelligibility. It falls into a class that it's inconsistent deviant phonological disorder, meaning that basically it's inconsistent. So most phonology, final consonant deletion, so there's no consistency. You ask him to say a word, he'll say it one way. You'll ask him again, it's a different way, right? So it's this cloud of words. So let's look at him.
¿Qué seno aquí este? Nada.
This guy has no ability to walk. I pride myself on being able to imitate the skips and the hops of most of my little guys, and I can't get his down because he's kind of got this swivel with this gallop with his hands behind his back, and I haven't pulled it off yet. Super cool kid, but he is all over the map. The school that I'm in, by the way, it's a dual language classroom, so it flips at lunchtime. They co-teach, so all classrooms are paired. If you're in the English classroom at lunch, you go over to the Spanish classroom and vice versa. And it's a pretty balanced population between Hispanic surnamed Spanish-speaking homes and non-Spanish-speaking homes being Asian, African-American, white. So heavier on the Hispanic side of it, but really cool. So it presents a problem or a fun plan in having to choose words that we focus on and even focus on therapy. So with these, I don't know, for those of you that have abilities with this type of disorder, this highly inconsistent disorder, they found that this core vocabulary approach has been the most consistent, not phonological awareness and not articulation. So basically what this looks like is we have a bank of 50 words, and the bank always stays at 50 words, and everybody gets to contribute to this bank. So here's his: Mario, Luigi, Angry Birds, Minions. So he gets to say, these are the words that are important to him, right? And then the teachers get to say, and this is a bilingual classroom, right? So we've got things within the classroom, book bag, carpet, table, chair. And the English teacher gets to say the colors and the things that are in her classroom. And then the parents also get a say. So on this end, we've got some clothes, family members, sister, brother, mom, dad, his sister's name, which I was about 4 months with him before I figured out that's what he was saying. He was saying his sister's name. I didn't have a clue. And he has a brother or an uncle. I'm not sure which. Could be both. Ray, because I think he's about his age. And he's not at that level where he can explain that to me. So basically what we do is we work, our goal for this is consistency. Even if he's wrong in a production, if he said, for example, Luigi is typically Ouija. If he says Ouija twice, I'm taking it. Because my goal in this approach is consistency. I can get Lu out of him, Lu, Lu, Lu. He can repeat single syllables, but as soon as it gets the meaning, it falls off. So his language samples, he's at about the 3 to 4 word level. His intelligibility is less than 30%. So we hammer down these words for about 4 weeks, and when he gets some that are absolutely down, they move over onto a success page in his binder, and we add more. And it always stays at 50. He's always working on 50. So again, did I pick any of these words? No, I don't care. Like, give me whatever words you want. If they're things that he needs to use and we need consistency, they can't be elephant and whale and tree trunk, like all the things that come in our tick decks. It's got to be stuff that's meaningful. So this is from just last week. So he's in grade. It's always a little longer of a sample, but I wanted to show you from the 3 camps that we're working on: the home, the classroom, and his own words, right? So we need consistency and frequency, right? And we can't do that in the 30 minutes, 60 minutes a week. He's got 2 hours of therapy a week. That's the most I've ever given a child outside of like a PPCD thing. He and one other child who we're about to meet, I walked on his case. I was like, whoa, who's handing out the speech here? Because this is immense for the days that I'm here. But then I met the guy. I was like, oh, okay, this is why. This stuff works and it's applicable. And again, the teachers saw this and they saw the buy-in, and they can say things to him like, go to your chair, or when they do these rotations. So the biggest problem was they would do these rotations from tables, and he would go over to the table and he would say something that no one understood. And they didn't know if he was saying, do I sit in this chair? Am I at the green table or the blue table? He's seeking to figure out where he should be on this rotation. And he couldn't say any of the colors or the objects in the room, so no one knew what was going on. And it was very frustrating, but that's all. I'll end it. Okay. And then one more. So this girl, she has autism, and bless you, we see some of her goals. She needs to spell her name, copy letters, one-to-one correspondence, basically turn taking, and sitting and working for 5 minutes. Beginning of the school year, she was all over the place. She was unable to sit, unable to attend. And then we've got speech goals, right, that we'd expect. Following directions, stopping an activity with one request, taking turns, making eye contact. So basically, can we get our goals to work within their goals, right? She's nonverbal to this day. She's starting to repeat certain sounds, but there's not any meaning behind it. But there's a really interesting fact about this girl is that her whole deal is music. And she has the ability to hear a song, and she makes up sounds and absolutely matches the pitch of all the sounds. It's lyrical and it's beautiful. And my phone can't hold any more videos because I'm always trying to catch her. But it's not for me. One time she's sitting there like this and she turns to me, she goes, "Hello." And I was like, and she didn't know what she said, and she happened to match the word in the song just once, and I didn't have my phone out that time. But so this is what therapy looks like with her, is that she's got words that are important to her, and she's got to write. So we work on following directions still. So there's real pictures. So this is her mom, and she's spelling the word mama, and we're using refrigerator magnets. Her dexterity isn't good enough to write. She can sort of trace. But can she match the letters and spell the words? So the way to get her to do this is she has 3 or 4 favorite activities. And we allowed her to work as long as she could. It was 1 to 2 words to begin. And then she got a 30-second break to 60-second break, real short. And then she got to choose her string or ball or hula hoop. She got all of them. And now we're finally trying to get in packs where she has to choose one of her 4 favorite activities. We're struggling with it for a bit, but at least we've got work, non-work, work, non-work. So I've got a video here to show you a little bit about what it is. And then maybe we'll play Name That Tune. So it's going to be her playing, and then she's going to sing, and we'll see if anyone can name this. I know you're thinking this guy is a pop diva, and I know everything. I have the fortune, I have an 11-year-old at home. So I'm going home with the audio. I'm like, which one's this one? And she's like, oh, that's that one. And I look it up so I can get the name. But name that. Who can name that tune? Clarity. Yeah. She figures this out, and then there's this Miss Harris who works with her, and we're saying, what is it? And we can sometimes figure it out. We can get it up on YouTube, and we get eye contact and this big smile, and she's communicating to us what she wants to hear. And when Mom picks her up, she runs, she gets in the front seat, she turns the radio back up through the chairs into her chair. But she loves the radio. And we're able to use this to get work out of her. So this is what it looks like. Yeah, this is the reason why has anyone ever ran into like a speech student as a teenager? I'm always afraid that the day's going to come when they figure out that they thought they were playing and I was beating them with speech. January, she wasn't doing anything. You know, we would get one word. This is in 30 to 45 minutes and no imitations of sounds. By February, got her to spell 2 words within a session. And as the time went on, the number of words she spelled, so it'd be like 2-3 words, 60-second break. 2 to 3 words, 60-second break. By February, I got a full 9 words spelled out of her, and then a break, and then a few more words. And she spelled her first independent word. So do you guys know what Vivo is? Have you seen that? So I've got this box of letters, and she dives at it, and she's going to scramble all my letters, right? So I'm real protective of this box. But one time she's going at it, and she's picking, so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let her go. And she digs in the box, and she digs out the word Vivo, which is the word on the bottom of all the YouTube videos. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so, and this is kind of the last thing. This is where we're at with her.
G O N. What comes next? G-O-N. Very good. Z A L E Z. Gonzalez. G-O-N-Z-A-L-E-Z. G-O-N-Z-A-L-E-Z. Good job, Nora. You spelled Gonzalez.
So with her, we're starting to work into foils. So putting the letters out there and then having some wrong ones, which she's okay now. But when she first did that, it just angered her beyond belief because she had the letters covered or the word spelled, and there was these extra things, and she didn't know what to do with them. But that's what kids do, right? They've got alphabet soup, 26 letters. They've got to pull from them and spell. So she's starting to get used to the idea that some things just go off to the side. And does this stuff work? Absolutely. So here's 3 things that I never get. And by me working with the teachers, I got thank you notes. And I've been at this a long time, and I'm not on campus long enough typically. I'm in and out. I'm bilingual, and I also do contract work. So I don't feel bad about it. I'm never invited to the bridal shower, the baby shower in the library for obvious reasons. But I got thank you letters from teachers, and they are encouraged by this stuff, and they're really digging it. And it's going well, and I'm not planning that much therapy, and I'm getting great results. Okay, so how are we going to do this, right, with what we're doing? My first part of this presentation, I just wanted to give you the buy-in, and then I wanted to show you what it looked like. So I'm going to continue to show you what it looks like with therapy materials. In our perfect world, right, our therapy aligns to the curriculum. It's multimodal, meaning that if you have a theme, let's call it community workers, that you have a folder and maybe there's a recipe in there and some artic sheets and a game and stuff that for all different types and all different grade levels and types of kids and also different types of professionals. It is buy-in from educational professionals. You're doing what they want, so then when you have to ask them to do what you want, they say, sure. It can be used in a variety of settings. So we have stuff that, yeah, it works perfect in the PPCD classroom on the floor during carpet time. We want that stuff, but we also got to work with kids in chairs, right? So we want different ideas about these different modalities. So this is how we typically organize our materials, right? This is in your S folder. And if you've had a spouse look at your stuff and they ask you an obvious question that you never thought of, they're like, what does a spy have to do with a whale or hot chocolate? And you're like, nothing. They both start with S. And if you're not a speech therapist, I put this up there like, yeah, that's an S chart. But if you're not a speech therapist, this thing makes no sense to anyone. Why don't we organize this stuff by theme? So I'm not even suggesting that we go out and buy new stuff. We just take all our junk and we put it in different folders. So when we began, we took all the academic topics. I'll show you a list in a second of the easiest way to get going is the little kids. There's about 30 topics: oceans, animals, color-shaped objects. So we took those, and then across the top of the spreadsheet, we did every single speech and language goal. And we said, wouldn't it be cool if we had speech and language goals for all this? Well, the thing was bigger than the Dead Sea Scroll, and it was just immense, right? And it was all reduplicated. So what we decided to do is divide it by the activities that we commonly did. And our staff brought in their stuff and dumped stuff into boxes that were marked a certain thing. Animals, community workers, their favorite game, or made notes. We also, being in the modern times, like we have a server and we just had files, and each of the file had a name. And if you had your favorite hungry caterpillar thing scanned in, you put it in the insects file. So you guys starting to see that within your staff. If everyone got on board, you can create a massive wiki or a massive server like that of all the materials that relate to the theme. So we have these things called in-service days, and I know the intent, and I'll even say 9, they're already laughing, 9 out of 10 in-service days are meant for a good reason and apply to what we're doing. Some of them, not so much. And what if you used an in-service day to talk about this topic and to have people brainstorm ways to get all of their stuff together? I put this filing cabinet up here as a reminder. When I started in the grad school program, there was one one veteran of teaching 30 years who was a bilingual speech therapist. She was a teacher then, a bilingual speech therapist. Very rare to have someone in that long. The first thing anyone did before they left the building was to go to her filing cabinet and pull out her manila folders and photocopy stuff from the seasons and holidays and all that. And I think this is a really good way where a staff of someone who's brand new, a CF, who can do unbelievably work technologically organizing stuff, building wikis, and people who have been around for 20, 30 years and have tons of stuff and abilities, that these two things come together like beautifully and everybody can benefit from their abilities. So here's the basic kindergarten topics, and as we know, the pre-K and PPCD topics are layered the same to prepare them for kindergarten. And these slides and everything are available on the website, but this is the easiest way to go. I think, am I right in thinking most of us have young kids? The majority are young kids, and as they get older, we have less. So bang for your buck. These guys have a lot of their stuff already laid out. The teachers have lesson plans, and they cover these topics. Here's the activities we came down to. Is that we've got phonology and artic. Surprise bag for us was kind of a vocabulary, and we're going to hop through and just take a look at what all these things look like. So for every topic, we're going to use animals as an example. For every topic, we had 12 things. We tried to fill 12 boxes, if you will. So the first is nothing more than a list of different things. So it's songs. Do you have songs that go with animals? And a lot of people had MP3s downloaded, so it started out as a list. These are great songs, these are great CDs. Here's a copy of the CD, here's the MP3 file of Old MacDonald. And the songs are within the files. And then great books. Everyone just went through all their different books with that list of 29 things. Oh, I love this book. Oh, we could use that during insects. I love this book. We could use that during whatever. And we listed the books that are generally in the library. And then I think this is mandatory for me. I just put the Dewey Decimal System with it, the nonfiction things, because the kids I work with, I really can't make an assumption that they have prior knowledge, low SES or from other cultures. So I go in, and if we're working on animals, I grab all the animals nonfiction. They go out on the table, and the kids look through them, and they just talk about it's a horse, it's a whatever they're looking at. And we use that to bring them around the topic for the first 2 minutes. Surprise bag is nothing more than vocabulary. It's the exact same idea that when the session starts, we bring everyone in on the topic. So they get to reach their hand in a bag, pull it out, say what it is, say whether they like it or describe it. But we're bringing everyone together on the topic. Articulation. We're already doing articulation, but could we divide into groups or just seek words? And you can do this. The general education people have this stuff down on the internet, right? You can search animal words for kindergartners, and you'll get a list. Your job is divide it by sound, right? So that's all we've done is we've taken the most common articles on the theme, and then we practice those words or whatever words are within the classroom. And then equally so with phonology. These are the surprise bag pictures and the articulation words ordered by size. So whether the beginning, middle, end, whether they have final consonants or not. Mini books, this is kind of a one size fits all activity, in that we created books that you can slice with the paper cutter super quickly, and kids need literacy knowledge, and kids at different levels can color, can underline words as you're reading, can practice the sounds of the word, can assemble the book. They need the knowledge of this thing. They have to be able to say cover, back cover, spine, page. They need this knowledge also. And making the book, and then making the book about a goal. So we've got tons of artic embedded, and then we've got where questions, basically within animals, right? Table activity, this is the largest file that you'll have, the big fat one, because this is all the photocopies out of everything you've ever purchased, right? It's all the activities. It's just rather than having this animals page backed up to, I think this one, on the other side of it was a cake with these candles you would cut out. So you'd use that for different stuff, but why the animals one is next to the cake and then on the next page is a car with wheels that comes up? I have no idea. That doesn't make, it's funny now, right? When you think about it, but it's not thematic at all. Like, I don't even know how those things relate in any context. But if we slice and dice and put the things where they need to be, we have access to them. Some of us love crafts. So when you're working with your staff, right, you have different people. I love working at the table and doing a lot of paper cutting activities. Patricia, who we work with, she loves recipes. Loves getting kids dirty, loves them getting dirty hands-on stuff. Anne, who we worked with, she said, I would never sit at a table with these kids. Like, I'm always on the floor, right? So within these things, you see that all the speech pathologists you work with, these activities respond to the different personalities also. So here's a craft idea, paper plates, stuff that people have done. Another craft idea. Everything that we do is super fast. Like, it should be able to fit in the paper slicer because we're running down the hall, right? We don't have time to sit there and cut out stuff. So super fast. And then we added a game. This was a late development and total happenstance. It came out of some literacy-based research we did where we started making board games that went with books. And then we let the kids make the games, and they got so involved in designing the games. One of my favorites, the example, is where the wild things are. So it's a loop inside a manila folder, right? Max leaves his bedroom, goes across the ocean, goes to the wild things, goes across the ocean, goes back to his house. It's a board game, right? So kids love making games that they can then take and then play. And if you make it once, so there's 3 pictures and then some pieces, but all the games can be laminated inside a manila folder to go in your file, to be carried with you lightly, and you only have to make it once. So yes, there is some investment in the beginning, but I'm no longer making things twice. And I know where stuff is, which is a very good thing. Here's a recipe example, those little capsules. Someone likes using those with the animals that they grow. And then lastly, this is the novel part, and I don't think that any or many people do this. Homework's going home, and we know from the research, right? If we can bridge the gap to the house, and if we can get the parents' buy-in, it's a very powerful ally. And we also know that what they hear has to apply to their life, and it has to be super simple because they don't have our education or our job. And everyone they deal with grew up speaking normally. So this whole thing's new to them. So they just need a single task. Ask your kid to name the animal. Ask your kid who questions. And little by little, at the end of a week, hey parents, and these are all pretty much identical except for a different picture. Today we're talking about, and they're already seeing the stuff in the backpack too, right? Ask your kids about, and then this. So equal like the thank you notes. I don't know about you, but oftentimes I would go to a meeting at the end of the year and that's the first time I meet the parent. And I'm like, oh, I've been working with your child, this has been great. And I'm starting to get more feedback and more buy-in from the parents, just like the teachers. And when I go to the ARD meeting, the IEP meeting, they're like, oh, you're the guy sending home those letters. Like, yeah, that's me. Oh, thank you for those. This is what the meeting is going to be about. I'm like, whoa. The buy-in in the meeting is more of a reunion than like first meeting. So lastly, to conclude, how do we get this information from the teachers, right? I start each year with a folder, and this basically this is many attempts, and this is the best so far. Hey teacher, this is what I do. I can be successful if I know what you're working on. Here's a letter, send this home to the parents. Here's your kids' goals. This is your folder. This is how you get a hold of me. So each teacher gets one of that. The indirect week, I meet with them. If you have indirect week, one school I'm at does. And this is how I use the indirect week. What are you guys doing in here? Give me that page. Can I have a copy of that paper? Can I borrow that book? And I'm figuring out what they're doing within that time period. Here's another thing. Our work emails through Gmail, and I know that this happens in Lotus Notes too, but there's an arrow down here. It's called canned responses. And basically you write an email once and you click it as canned, and then every Friday I go in and I just click it. And they, hey, this is your friendly reminder to send me your lesson plans next week. And some teachers like that. And I'm not asking for much. Like, it's boiled down to, they don't write me anything. It's in the subject line. It just says animals, or it just says we're reading Where the Wild Things Are. Like, that's it. They're not writing me a letter, and I've given them such a low commitment, they're totally cool with it. Lesson plans, if you've got new teachers, depending on the campus, Some campuses have teams, and they have to upload or email their lesson plans anyways. And you say, hey, can you copy me on that? And you just look at the themes. It's usually big grid formats. And I'm not even talking to all the teams. Typically, a grade is aligned. So roughly first grade will be doing growing things or have the chickens there this week. And then the junk. This is the best part, right? When you go into these classrooms and you hear all the, you've all walked by the classroom and you hear everything hit the floor, and you look in and the teacher's emptying out this week's closet worth of junk, community workers or whatever it is, and that's their junk for the week. You go in and you say, hey, can I borrow your stuff? And they're like, yeah, sure. What are you going to use? I'm going to need this. Can I have this for this half hour? And you use their stuff that the kid then has to use. Because we don't have to do this anymore. Our stuff can be their stuff, and their cars can look like this. And when we had been in this office building on the second floor, so when we'd have a team meeting, if you were the first one out and you're walking down the parking lot, you knew whose cars were the speech therapists, because they all looked like this. And when I was a little boy in the library every summer, I don't know, some dealership would pull a car into the center of the library, and they'd fill it with balloons or bean bags. Guess how many is in here? And if you guess, I don't know, maybe you won the car, I don't even remember. But you tried to guess how many stuffed animals were in it. And I'm always reminded of that walking through the parking lot, because that's how everyone's cars look. They're just jammed with stuff. To finish, this job gets very, very difficult from this day forward. And our next 90 days are an uphill slog, right? But I think that there's ways that we can start carving back time. And in the past, I didn't know that I could continue to do a job if carving back meant my health or the services I provided. It's an icky place to be if you're having to make choices like that. But what we presented today has been going on for a number of years within our office. And it's one of the first times, a small handful of times, where we've successfully done less, more accurately, and had greater results. So I encourage all of you to invest in your teachers and the curriculum. And if you need anything, give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm in Austin. So I work with bilinguistics.com. We're in Austin, Texas, and we write a lot with the speech therapy blog. It's real fun stuff, so you can find us here. And there's over 3,000 speech pathologists that are kind of participating in conversations about therapy and evals. It's fun. And so... Thank you.